that the information environment that we live in now has changed quite dramatically. And that's changed in a couple of ways, both the advances of digital technologies and social networks, the globalization of the information environment, but also the decline in both the authority of and the ability financially to do the job of more traditional journalism. I think that changes the political, social, and economic environment in which the kinds of issues that are always debated play out. And some examples from other parts of the world, and I know the expertise here is U.S.-centric, but can any of you talk at all about whether you see any of these changes playing out? Because the changes, populism, hyperpartisanship, changing information environment, they're taking place rapidly in the developed world in different ways, sometimes more slowly, sometimes more quickly, even jumping over prior stages in the developing world. Do you have anything that you'd like to add about how these changes that we're talking about may or may not play out differently in other parts of the world?
You know, I'm just going to point out something that's very pop culture and doesn't have to do anything to do with science or academia. Social media, and I think it goes back to what Nick was saying, you were saying, that I think media literacy, particularly around social media, is absolutely critical, because we're in an environment where we can actually create these fabricated realities and fabricated characters that occupy virtual worlds, but that millions of people have now begun to follow. And I'll give you one example, if you could please quickly play my slides. That example I'm going to give you is of Instagram, and you may have heard of these folks, but Little Miquela, this is a robot, a CGI-generated personality that now has 1.6 million Instagram followers, millions and millions of dollars in endorsement deals, is a Calvin Klein model, and has a record deal. And the next one is her. This is her with a real flesh and blood supermodel, Bella Hadid, who was paid millions of dollars just to take that photo. And here we have a different psychographic of the same idea. This is somebody who's inspired by Ivanka Trump. Also a robot, has thousands of followers, is now having advertising deals. A male version of something like that. And a virtual pop star. And these folks are occupying these imaginary landscapes that are possible in this day and age. I don't believe this could have been possible 25 years ago.
I want to add just one other thing that we really should mention if we're having this panel. You know, in my post-Dean years, I've been running a small publishing company at Columbia called Columbia Global Reports. And we have a book out now by the UN Special Rapporteur on the Internet, David Kaye, called The Speech Police, which I highly recommend. And one of the big things he says in there is, hey, you know, what's happening in much of the world with the Internet is the state is suppressing what can be said. Good old-fashioned suppression of speech by an authoritarian state, with China at the top of the list, but many other countries too. We shouldn't let this panel end without that part of this story being mentioned.